It should. Well, although the front door's unlocked during business hours, so you can just walk right in.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll call this meeting to order. If you rise, remove your hats, we'll say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we're going to sing the national anthem. All right. Entertain a motion for the minutes from last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed the same. So moved. Kathy.
Hello,
Good evening, or good afternoon.
good afternoon. I have the allowance of accounts payable voucher that needs to be approved and allowance docket.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve accounts payable. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed the same. So moved. Was there anything else?
I think that was it.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Wagner?
Just a couple quick things. I'll try to leave the old business stuff for the old business category. The Plan Commission is down 2 members. Keith and I reviewed the town code on this, and we are working on filling those vacancies according to the town rules. As it happens, we need to find 1 Democrat inside of town and 1 Democrat outside of town, because we have Republicans or Libertarians in the other seats that are supposed to be balanced out that way. We have contacted the Marshall County Democrats asking if they have interested members, and we're waiting to hear back if they do find somebody that they want to recommend. But if anybody else knows a Democrat here in town that might be interested, or one that's outside of town but within our zoning boundary, by all means have them call in and leave their name with Keith, and we'll hopefully have a list to have you choose from in the near future. Sometimes the Plan Commission actions are ones that they take themselves, some make the decisions themselves, sometimes they make a recommendation to you. And they did have a recent action where I think it probably falls more in that recommendation. It was the vacation of 2C Road, essentially from Washington Street over to Elm or Center Street there. The Plan Commission unanimously denied it, essentially. They were not in favor of it. It was there's some disagreeing viewpoints presented at the meeting, but it was still cordial. And I think the church is able to still do some of the things that they're planning on, and some of it may be just more down the road. But if you haven't received those packets, I'm not sure all of you have, what we'll do is we'll probably just ask you to formally approve that. I'm saying it weird, approve the denial, but basically just take your action based on that recommendation at the next meeting, give you a chance to look at the packets. There is a Marshall County plan commission meeting from earlier this month where they took up the same issue, because it's a weird situation where it's the vacation of a road that is not actually the town's to vacate. So it falls in our planning authority, but the actual possession of the road belongs to the county. We thought we had maneuvered them into making their decision first. They managed to flip it back to us. And so we made that decision. I don't know what the county will do for certain, but my expectation is if our plan commission recommended against vacating the street, that the county will probably follow suit and just hang on to the road. So just be aware that that's coming down the pike. In terms of other activity, Ben and I went and looked at a couple, I don't want to call them problem sites, but just upcoming issues we're going to have to deal with. There is a weird, I think, transformer situation is at the in the alley behind the apartments that we're probably going to ask for JPR maybe to survey the building and kind of define where all those lines are, because everything's real tight back there. But what the existing system, it sounds like, isn't ideal, and we may need to get an easement to locate some equipment in a better, safer place. So that's kind of one of the issues we looked at. And then the other is out on the west end of town in the Shoemaker neighborhood. There is at least one easement that is probably not big enough to do what needs to be done based on where fences and trees and other things have been placed. So I spent some time at the recorder's office today. We actually have digital copies of all of those plats that I'm going to send to Ben, and he can start figuring out, based on what the dimensions are of each of those easements, what needs to change in those places. Some of the places out there, looking at the aerial, they look like they're spot on. But those were done quite some time ago. One of them was from 1969. And once you start getting 2 or 3 owners deep, I think some people lose track of where those boundaries are. And so we had some conversations about the way we would do things if we were putting in a new neighborhood now, like we hope we would be in the near future, trying to avoid those backyard easements and getting boxes out in the front. But just so you know, and Keith is on the hook for this probably as much as anybody, we'll probably be sending some letters and asking people to adjust their fences, adjust dimensions and things like that to make sure that the electric equipment can get back there. So that'll be coming down in the future. And you may have some folks that aren't thrilled with having to do that. So, but we went and walked it, and
Where was this at again?
what street were we on, Ben?
Corey
Yeah,
Driver.
so-
Oh, back in Shoemaker?
Yeah.
There's that whole
We have an easement there. There's an easement there.
They're all platted.
They're all platted.
Yep. And if you look at the GIS, you can tell based on the property dimensions and then where you see the fence lines, some of the neighborhoods they appear to be spot on, and they'll be okay. But some of them, and this one, frankly, it's a weird shape. It's not a surprise there's some confusion. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything wrong. But the reality of it is there is no way they could get equipment back there. And it's not just a matter of, we've had some conversations in some of these BZA meetings where, the suggestion is you can put your shed there, but we're gonna drive a truck through it if we have to. And this is stuff that we could not drive a truck through that easily. So we're just gonna have to figure out where those boundaries are and then figure out how to get them clear. So, but we are gonna be working on that more in the next few months.
And back on, it was 2B Road? That
2C.
2C, okay. And where's 2C?
Right by the church.
So,
North side of
Missionary Church.
Missionary Church.
Down there at the corner of
Goes
Third
back.
Road and,
Down, goes around the corner, then comes back out to Third Road, right on the north side of Missionary Church, that's 2C Road.
Okay.
They asked for that section, they bought the property on the north side of that street, and they asked for the county to vacate that portion of 2C.
Okay. Thank you. New business, do we have any new business to discuss? Old business? Do you want to update us, Mr. Wagner, on the couple
yeah.
projects that you've got going on?
Just to give you an idea on the DORA ordinance, this is what I had drafted just kind of earlier this year. If you look at it though, you'll see some things marked with usually question marks or asterisks, and those are just kind of internal notes to myself. If you see all caps, usually that's a flag for me to insert some information later. You're going to see references to 4 different exhibits. None of those are attached here because most of them aren't prepared yet. Exhibit A would be a map of the DORA. I think we could probably put it together on the GIS system even, but where we literally define those dimensions. We may need to put together a legal description. I may get with Ken on somebody from your office who could help me do that. We do need to come up with the sample sign design. We have to designate sign locations. And then Exhibit D would be a vendor sign where it gets posted on the folks that are participating. Worth noting, the street committee can add more signs if they think it's necessary for improving public safety under this ordinance. A couple things to pull your attention to though that would be more on the policy side for you guys to decide. Number 8, or paragraph number 8, dates and times. Right now, the definition that's in there, I think, is pretty generic, and it probably makes a lot of sense to have it that way, but you could certainly say it's only going to run until, you know, November 2nd, and then it's going to start up again on, you know, May 1st. You could certainly do something like that. You can, like I said, dates and times can go in there. Probably worth doing a little bit of a survey or looking around at other communities to see how they structure it. But I think this generic setting in there is probably going to work. Number 9, I made up that list off the top of my head. That's a list of potential businesses that I pulled together information on myself. You know, we're going to try to invite a group to a meeting to discuss what this is, how it works, and then some of the logistical details that they would need to be a part of. So I would assume all of those places would be involved. Number 11 is where the carve out for special events like the fire department. Was the VFW, were they doing the alcohol area at Latin Fest? Yeah, so that would be another example where there's, I think I had the fire department on there. I don't remember if I wrote the VFW in or not, that was relatively recent, but yeah, okay. So we've started flagging some of the people there, and it's important to understand these, you just submit an application. If you're not in the original ordinance, you submit an application to get added to the list of people who are allowed to be vendors or existing businesses. It's not like this is set in stone.
So we don't have to always modify the ordinance? Just,
no,
okay.
no.
Every time
We'll
something
just,
sells or...
yeah, we'll just have a running list. But I think it's kind of saying these are the people that are going in and the first go through, and then we'll maintain that through an application system afterwards. Because someone could sell their business, and usually you see that by an asset purchase, not necessarily buying the actual entity itself, and you don't want to have to make people, force people to buy entities to get into the door.
Yeah.
They already have to deal with that enough with the liquor licenses. So, and then there's something I flagged for myself in number 15. I think essentially the way I understand the way this would work is if we declare the DORA, like as an example, Hooples would not have to have that fencing around their patio anymore. And so if you read it that way, we're going to tell them you got to take that fencing down, which it seems a little heavy-handed to say or we fine you. But the idea would be those barriers come down because it's allowed in the district.
But
So
what do you do outside of the May to November then? Let's say it's nice at Christmas and someone wants to sit outside.
yeah, that's a problem. So, but those are the things I think that have to be discussed.
Okay.
So, but you know, I think, what kind of cup are you gonna use? How much do they cost? What kind of volume are you gonna buy? What color are they? How is it that you're gonna recognize, you know, those things and be able to tell what's been purchased in the district and what hasn't been? Some people may not wanna be a part of it, some may. Doing some kind of logo, you know, for it, something like that. I just think there's a lot that, I don't know whether it's the chamber or just that subset of downtown businesses that are gonna participate. I just think they need to get roped in. So to me, I still think the next thing is to get those folks together. it probably wouldn't hurt to have a conversation with somebody who has a door up and running and to just say, what logistical issues are we not thinking of? You know, you don't know what you don't know. Where we just try to figure out if we have a checklist to run through at this meeting of things that we need their participation on, it would make the meeting go well. So, but some of it, I mean, is Joe here tonight? Maybe he's not.
Yeah.
But, okay, so it's something where he might be the only one who really is aware this is going on, you know what I mean? So we may have kind of a ground up discussion that we have to have first. This is what it would entail, this is how it would work, and then we start seeing what kind of buy-in there is for it, so.
So with this, once this gets approved, or if it gets approved, your office is handling it, Tara, or who handles it at this point?
I believe it will come through here, some kind of permit. We wanted to have some more answers before we talked to the business owners. Tara and I discussed maybe putting it in front of the chamber. Maybe the chamber would buy the first 1,000 glasses or something, just to,
Yeah.
you know, start the whole process. We don't know what it looks like yet, but yeah, it would be run through us.
So yeah, that's still a work in progress, but we are moving through it now. My timetable says looking to start this sometime next spring. I don't really feel like, I'm not comfortable putting it together for this fall, just because I feel like we're right on the cusp of that already. I think it's gonna take a little more work than that to get it done right. But yeah, that's where we're at, and hopefully we'll just keep moving it forward with, like I said, next spring as a target. So. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Well, feel free to read it over, and it's in a very early draft phase. So by all means, if there's things that you think are incorrect, things that should be changed, by all means, let me know. Plenty of time to tweak that before it gets in front of you.
Do we have an idea of the location, streets, how far we're going?
You know, my understanding was it was gonna be this block here, this existing block, and include the Jackson Street area. Because I don't think we were necessarily gonna go to the other side of the alley. I thought it was really just Plymouth Street for that 2-block area, but we probably wanna capture all of that parking lot there because of some of the plans that have been pitched to the RDC about that little commercial village that they're considering. So yeah, I think that, the way I looked at it, I guess, is on a general level, that's probably where it will be. It could bump out a little bit in directions or contract in some spaces, yeah, but generally, I think it would be just here and not extend to any of the residential neighborhoods. So I don't want to include, for instance, the event center down there. I think that'll exacerbate the problems that those neighbors have had in that area.
So you're gonna go all the way over to 1 block over, or are you gonna go just to the alley on this direction? Because you have apartments down there on the corner.
I think that could be discussed. On the north side, I would go all the way down. On the south side, whether you want to do that, whether that makes sense, I don't
Because we
know.
have residential on this, behind the Shell station, apartments really,
But see, I wouldn't include First Federal's parking lot in this, and First Federal's building. It would just be literally the Jackson Street area and probably the standpipe, and that's where you stop. So yeah. But that's something where, you know, we may get some good ideas from looking at another community and what they've done. And I don't think we're setting anything in stone that couldn't be adjusted later. So, but I think the idea is, and I think it says even in this ordinance somewhere, we're not including residential properties. Like, the point of this is you're getting commercial buildings, I guess you have apartments upstairs, I mean, but we're not trying to extend this into the residential neighborhoods at all. Thanks. Sure.
All right. Public comment.
Oh, no, wait. You got lots of old business to do.
Oh.
It's just the first one.
All right. Is there any discussion on the ordinance for buggies and?
Yeah, so I did talk to somebody from Napanee, and they do not have a horse manure control ordinance.
I'm surprised they
So,
did.
well, and I can send you some of the links that I found, but it doesn't seem to have taken off anywhere. Some places have considered it, but nobody actually pulled the trigger, and the one place that did out of state got sued. So it's something that I told Keith, it came up first here. I went back to my office that night and horse manure right through the driveway up to my office. So I get it, but it doesn't seem like anything that has actually been pursued by anybody else, and I think there's some good reasons for that. So I don't think that's gonna go anywhere. The lights on the buggies and the slow-moving vehicles, Keith and I had a conversation with Brad about it. You know, I think the buggies are already required to have some of those things, and we were talking about some of the smaller things like the pony carts that you see sometimes being driven, and you know, again, I'm not sure I see the value in just Bremen doing that. So our county executive meeting is this Thursday, and I was gonna float it there and see what other discussions have been, but it's the sort of subject matter where usually state law kind of trumps everybody on it. And the reason is because, you know, there's roads all over the state. And it makes sense for there to be some consistency between those jurisdictions. So I'll bring that up in the discussion this week. Keith's not able to be there, but he and I will talk about it some more. But I would like to see, at least if it's gonna happen, the county kind of needs to drive the boat on it, I feel like. But Brad's been helpful in just getting an understanding of what we think the state already requires. We don't necessarily want to step in the middle of that. So yeah, I am considering the horse manure issue dead though. Unless you guys tell me you still want to go forward with it. And then the lights and marking the slow moving vehicles, we'll try to get an answer for you on that, but I really think you need a bigger solution to just Bremen for that issue.
What about the issue with the Amish driving a tractor to pull a trailer to go do business in town? Anyone else that's driving a vehicle down the highway would have to have a license if they're doing business. I'm not talking about pulling a wagon loaded with hay. I'm talking about something pulled with equipment on the back so they can go do a job somewhere. Or you have a 10-year-old kid driving a tractor through town doing the exact same thing.
Okay. I think some of that, Brad, isn't that controlled by, I think there's a specific state statute that governs when it's in ag use and when it's not.
Well, that wouldn't be ag use.
I understand that, but if there's an existing state statute on it, that means somebody can write a ticket on it. And I'm not sure we necessarily need something new in town just to deal with that. So it may be a matter of brushing up with the department on what to look for, but boy, that's gonna be a tough judgment call for the officers pretty much every time.
Happens all the time.
I understand. So, but yeah, I'm not sure a new ordinance necessarily, it would be what I would recommend there, so.
Next, scooters.
So Brad and I have talked about this one quite a bit. And I will say anecdotally, this is the first summer I ever saw kids with helmets on. So I do feel like there's starting to be some more responsible parents out there with their kids. But, you know, essentially treating them like bicycles, we still agreed, I think that outreach, especially through the school, is probably the best answer. I still see kids doing dumb stuff on them. I see 2 high school kids riding on one scooter, which is asking for it. But like I said, this summer I saw more kids in helmets, some not wearing them properly, but at least the thought that counted at that moment. I saw more kids obeying the traffic signals, like it was getting better. So my understanding was the school had sent something out at some point. I saw some kids, parents basically educating kids on how to ride their scooters more safely on Grant Street one night. So that's my opinion. I'm not sure really what more you want to do.
Do we know how as there was an accident recently?
When was that?
2 weeks ago, maybe?
Okay, yeah, see, I'm not aware of that, so.
Kid that rode his scooter right into the side of a moving car and had to go to Memorial. It's pretty serious. Have we heard back on the kid at all? So I mean, the kid's alive, he's okay, he wasn't paralyzed to our knowledge, but he couldn't feel his limbs after the accident.
Okay.
So I think the school route and trying to educate is probably the first line of defense at this point. But maybe we can talk to our new resource officer and put that on his agenda.
I think that would actually be an ideal project for someone like Officer Atkins to deal with. And that's something where you always feel bad when you say, hey, the school's got enough going on, we don't need to invent more things for them to do, but now that we have Officer Atkins there, that's probably a good topic for him to broach, so.
Town apartments,
So we have started taking applications. We actually only had one. We looked at the list and everybody's already found other arrangements, but we're actively taking applications to try to fill it. I talked to Matt Schwartz this week about a different issue over here, and he's still interested in that possibility. Like I told you before, he knows about our issue with the History Center, and he's community-minded. He realizes that too, but he is interested in that space, so he would be one that would be interested in doing something with it.
So I have not been able to find anything where a municipality this size owns a similar structure under some kind of grant.
is this asset one that is owned by the town or by RDC, or
I believe it's straight up owned by.
is this something that if we were going to entertain selling it, would we need to do some sort of a bid process?
My recommendation to you is going to be to do RFPs.
RFPs, okay.
Let somebody show you what they're going to do with the space. That also gives you the ability to put some conditions in there. But, you know, backing up one level above that, though, that's kind of where you're going to have to make some of these decisions. If you said, we're just going to sell it and, you know, we don't want strings attached on it, then, you know, that's just what you would do. You wouldn't necessarily need to go through that process. It'd be a lot more simple. So I think there's going to be interest if it's just for sale for multiple parties. You start putting some strings in, like a long-term lease for the History Center and some things like that. Well, you know, that hurts the marketability. But on the other hand, you know, you're not a for-profit entity. It is not your objective necessarily to get the most money back for it. It's to promote the most community good. So if you think those objectives are worthwhile, I think you have the ability to say that. But that's where you're going to have to make a decision first. But my recommendation, if you're going to consider anything like that, is to do an RFP process and let people come to you with what their proposals are.
Should we get an appraisal on it? I mean,
I think if you're going to do any kind of sale, that would be sensible. If you're ready to do that, we can start that process.
I mean, at least we have a number that we kind of know of and help steer us on a decision, I think.
It'd be nice to have an idea.
Yeah.
We could start with a market analysis. I could probably find a realtor that would do it. At least give us should basically just get us comps.
Yeah.
It might be hard to get comps, but try to find what other business properties have sold here in the downtown area, and then it's a full-blown appraisal on that is probably going to be a couple $1,000 at least.
It may be something, depending on where you want to go with it, that you could choose to transfer it to the redevelopment commission. I'd have to think about whether it would be easier to work with in that context. But right now, until you know for certain whether you want to put controls on anything, I think I would tell you, keep it in your hands until you're sure that you don't. So,
Okay.
all right, so just so we're clear though, we're gonna pull up on the appraisal for the moment, is that right?
Yeah, let's
Pursue the market analysis
see if
first.
we can get a market analysis that makes sense and pro bono type work, and to have a number under our hat to know what we think we added. It's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it at the end of the day, so.
Okay.
All right, now public comment.
How are you? Al Bartley, I'm the owner of Hooples over there. So I know we were talking about the fence, and I'm getting ready to invest about 15 grand in it now, so should I hold off till next year and let the falling one stay there?
If it's falling, I would talk to your insurance company.
Yeah.
Guessing what
Well, I
the
mean,
answer
should I
is.
just put a cheap one up or
Well,
go with the nice thing I was talking about?
yeah, I think I would recommend maybe meeting with Keith outside.
Because I had the guys there, they're designing it now, so I don't want.
Okay.
We appreciate everything you're doing over there too, Al.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're trying to get it all fixed up in there and stuff.
Yeah,
and get
I'll
it
be
ready.
honest, we've been talking about this door for a while, but
Yeah.
I did not think that those fences would have to come down. I thought they were open enough, but the way this ordinance is reading right now, I need to go back into the underlying statute and see if there's a way to keep that there.
Some of the people I've talked to in some of the areas, you don't have to have them, but it makes it nice defining off, especially when you have, some kids or something coming in, to eat. They can't come
Right.
inside, but they can.
I would think, you can say, hey, this is for my customers and not
Yeah.
for, but I think that's part of the point of the door is you can go anywhere and sit and enjoy your beverage. And you may not be as enthusiastic about
Yeah.
that if it's not from
Oh,
your
yeah.
business, so, yeah.
But it comes with the food and stuff when people sitting out on the
Right,
patio. and
right,
stuff.
but that's what I think we need to get the business owners in to discuss.
Yeah.
So everybody's clear on how.
Because I'm real close to pulling the trigger on that one, so I don't want to have to do that and then,
Yeah.
take it down here.
Hold off a bit.
Okay.
We could probably pull, a meeting together in the next month or two here. Would that be too long for you, or?
Well, I mean, it looks bad. I'm trying to up the image a little
Yeah.
bit, but, so the sooner we can,
Would we-
get something together.
And this would only pertain to businesses with an alcohol license, correct? Current, like the Dora. Like if we're gonna have a roundtable discussion with the businesses downtown, it's the ones that are serving alcohol.
No, I would actually serve or bring in or invite every business, because certainly your other businesses, if you choose not to sell alcohol, you might be affected, You're gonna have people carrying alcohol around, and I think they've got the right to say,
We don't like that.
I'm
or
not
we do like
crazy
that?
for this, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I would make it open to everybody who is in the area, even if they aren't going to participate in the door part.
Would that need to be a public meeting, or would that be an executive session sort of
Well,
thing with the?
I mean, I think if it's preliminary, it's just with Keith, so it's not gonna be, streamed or anything like that. I mean, I'm assuming I'm gonna be there. Keith and I will kind of work through it, but you guys are welcome, but we weren't gonna put it as a council meeting. Now, will this come in front of the council again? Absolutely, probably several times before it gets to that point. This is just preliminary, introducing the idea. I'm glad we've got a couple business owners now that are more familiar with it. That's great. Some of them, though, I'm expecting it to be the first time they've heard of it, so. But you're right, there's businesses along here that just probably aren't gonna mind. The photographer, for instance, probably not gonna make much of a difference to her. The 24-hour gym, maybe. We'll just have to see, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other public comment? All right, Keith.
You have my report. The only thing I have is I touched base with a few of you. Megan's down at French Lick at a training, and she just found out that, like our budget meetings, it may have to be postponed because it has to be live streamed and advertised. But she literally just sent me another text that said that there may be a way around it. She's checking with Baker Tilly, so hold on to the 21st and we'll let you know. But
Okay.
it may be getting changed. That's all I have.
Thank you. Brian?
Brian Main, Park Superintendent. Tomorrow night, you can see me better. Tomorrow night, the Park Board is meeting to approve a modified Assistant Superintendent position. Yeah, I was hoping to have budget meetings done before that, looking at next year, but gonna roll kind of at this point with the previously approved wage on an hourly basis, and then advertise internally, probably for the remainder of this week, and then externally after that. See if we can get it filled here in the next month or so, get trained up going into winter. So, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Chief? Good. Ben? Matt? Henry? Austin?
No.
Nate? Chief?
You have my report. Also, there's a flyer there for Appreciation Day, Saturday at the fire station, around 10 to 4. Anybody's welcome to come up. Be a good time.
Chloe, you got anything? Okay.
Make a motion to accept department head reports.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the department head reports. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed the same.
I'm sorry, who was the second there? Was that you? Okay, thank you.
Opposed the same. So moved. Who wants to go first, Dan?
I will go first. Alrighty. Hey guys, so last Wednesday on August,
People online don't know who you are, and they just think you're a model of some sort.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep, I'm Daniel Bynum with JPR.
Thank you.
Yep, on last Wednesday, August 6th, we opened bids for the Town of Bremen wastewater plant improvements Phase 1 project. I handed out a flyer, a engineer's recommendation that lists those bids and the amounts. We received a total of 2 bids for each contract. Both Thieneman Construction and R. Yoder Construction bid the job. You can see from the summary table they were pretty close to each other. Contract A's total bid, base bid and all mandatory alternates was $3.3 million from Thieneman and $3.55 million from R. Yoder. And contract B was $5.3 million from Thieneman and $5.5 million from R. Yoder. So those bids were very close to each other. Both the apparent low bid in Thieneman Construction was the sum total of both contracts was about 22% over the engineer's opinion of probable costs. We reviewed these packages and there aren't any errors or anything like that in any of the bids. Everything that was required to be submitted was submitted with them. Now, I would note, you guys are probably wondering what this means for user rates if this project came in about 22% over what we'd previously estimated. So if you recall in the 2024 town financial report that Baker Tilly put together, they'd estimated that this initial Phase 1 project was going to result in a 17% increase in the user rates for sewer. Now that obviously is subject to change. I did forward all of this bid information out to Baker Tilly the day we opened. As soon as I had the bid tabs tabulated, I forwarded this to Baker Tilly. They indicated to me that they're currently putting together some financial reporting for you guys. And one thing that they wanted to do is they wanted to wait until they got the updated pool interest rates from SRF. I think SRF is slated to release those at in late August or something like that. And they want to make sure that they're giving you an accurate representation of what that rate impact's going to look like. Because there's also a bit of a difference in the budget. So in our initial estimate, we actually budgeted a 10% contingency, but we're not going to take that into the construction budget. We'll take a 5% contingency in, so that amount will come down by a little bit. Also, the debt service cost is expected to change as a result of the different interest rate. So their anticipation was to present to you guys an estimated rate impact at the first meeting in September, is what Kimberly told me. So they're looking at presenting that then. However, we do recommend that the town accept and tentatively award the bids to Thieneman for both Contract A and Contract B. Now, these would be tentative awards. You're not formally awarding the project to them. It's an award contingent upon obtaining successful funding from SRF. So I guess with that being said, we'd recommend that the town council accept the engineer's recommendation, tentatively award contract A base bid, contract A voluntary alternate bid number 1, and contract B base bid to Thieneman Construction for the total amount of $8,636,000, and authorize the town council president to issue the tentative notices of award for the contract upon successful closing of pool funding. Now, we did put a 150-day bid hold period in this contract, so a decision does not necessarily need to be made tonight, but it certainly can be if you'd like to. I'd certainly understand it either way. This is what I'm saying.
What would be the push not to wait until September to see what that rate impact's gonna be?
I mean, I don't think there is, other than getting it off your hands.
Okay. My personal opinion is I'd like to see before we approve something that we have no idea what the rate impact's gonna be. Just my opinion.
Yep, totally understandable. So, I mean, if that's the decision of the town council, then we'll hold on to this letter and we'll reissue it in September after Baker Tilly's presented their rate impact. And you can make that decision at that time.
I think it's wise.
Okay.
Everyone agree? Everybody agree with that? All right, we'll wait for the rates to come in September, and we'll make our decision at that first meeting then.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep. That's all I had.
All right, thanks, Dan.
So, other than Dan's report, I want to let you know that things are moving towards completion on Grant Street reconstruction. And be handling some details. That project should be wrapped up nicely here very soon. CCMD projects are going forward and making good progress. I wanted to mention to you that we did submit on behalf of the town an updated grant request to the Marshall County Community Foundation for restoration, basically not necessarily restoration, but preservation of the standpipe. That amount that we asked for is probably going to be quite a bit more than what we would receive, but figured we'll aim high and see what happens. If they were to grant what we asked for, then we would be in a good position to complete the preservation design work and then potentially open, issue a contract. I don't think we're going to quite be where we need to be. The foundation isn't necessarily, saying, great, we love this project, we're going to hand you over some money. We're a ways away from that yet. So, but I wanted to let you know that application did get made and we're advancing it. My assistant has been working with our creative staff, and there's some dialogue that about the potential for actually putting a donation portal on the town's website and maybe on the Chamber's website. I think it'd be, even if we raised a couple $1,000s, it'd be better than nothing. So we're glad are happy to put that portal together, have our IT work with yours, and then so go to the website. We'll have a button you can click on that gives some information about the standpipe restoration, and when you click on it, you can move to another page and potentially enter in a donation with a credit card or otherwise. So, but we have the ability to help the town get through that. So if I guess I'm asking the council if they're okay with that. If they are, then I'll have my folks move forward with it. And remember that we do have $75,000 that's supposed to be coming back to the town through the federal budget. That where we through the historic heritage section of the federal government that was awarded, but we haven't had that money delivered yet because of the kind of hold on federal budget. We're expecting that to happen though.
So, what was the original or the last budget or quote that we had gotten?
Well, with if you're gonna go all the way to restoration, it's probably gonna be, just shy of about $400,000. If we're gonna go to preservation, which basically is, just making sure that the structural portion of the standpipe is restored. So, we're not losing ground as we're waiting. So, JPR dedicated about 25 grand in doing all the planning work at no cost to the town. And that was our match for the $75,000 that we were allocated from the federal budget. And if, we put this into the foundation at 150 grand. I don't think we're gonna get 150 grand, but what's the harm in asking? And even if we got half of that, we'd be in a good position to begin some work, so.
And what, the tourism board is gonna do 50,000, right? Or not the board, but the tourism
We were
fund we
gonna
have.
take funds,
Oh, no.
I guess I thought, was that for the matching part of the grant though?
Probably.
So the 75 plus.
Yeah, there's a, we use in-kind work on our design fees
Yeah,
to
I
get
thought it
part
was
of it.
50 from tourism, 25 from JPR,
Right.
that got us to our match to get the other 75.
Right, and so, we'd like to try to raise as much money as we can to get as close to finished product, but right now it's like, masonry work and structural improvements, trying to maybe do some repair on the tank itself, those types of things, just essentially to preserve it.
I think if you were gonna put the donation portal on there, we ought to talk about doing a larger fundraising campaign and try to rope in some groups like Historic Bremen and some other folks like Kurt Garner that would help promote that.
And we're committed to it as a company. We think it's a treasure as well, and I really have some really talented people in the creative section of the company that I'd be happy they'd love to work on this. So,
Is
Then
the,
I'm sorry.
that's all, is Summer's End Fest, is it at Jackson Center or is it, it's at Jackson Street? Because what I was thinking was if it's Bremen Historic or whoever, if we put some sort of signage out in
Yeah.
front of it that kind of maybe talks about the history, what needs to be done, how much money needs to be raised,
Yep.
and then we could start to, educate people on that and get that momentum going.
absolutely. So,
So maybe Matt, or who's bringing the story? Is that Mr. Jensen?
Yeah, that'd be Jensen, but BCC would probably have an interest in it as well. So I would, go round up the usual suspects.
Yeah.
If RT's feeling up to it, one last ride, I'd get the usual suspects together, so.
okay, well, I can have, the gentleman's name is Mike Hanayevsky. He runs our creative, he actually lives in Plymouth. And he oversees our sales and creativity group there, so I will have him get a hold of Tony first, and we'll just see where it goes. Work with Keith and Tara and Katie, make sure we're doing the right thing, so.
Actually, send them to Keith first, not
Keith
them.
first, okay.
Yeah. Keith will quarterback it better than I will.
That sounds good to me. So, I don't have anything further.
All right, thank you. Town council comments?
I do have one other question. Were you guys looking at into a grant or something for the wastewater?
Yeah, I was just about to touch
Yeah.
on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are still currently working on trying to get some subsidization assistance from the EDA.
Okay.
And we're currently working with MACOG on trying to get that rolling. I think I did draft a briefing memo to them, send it to you.
I was working on that today too.
Yep, last week. The intention is that this grant would be for the Phase 2 project.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not phase one? Okay.
correct,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Thank you.
And when we met with EDA on that, they really liked the idea that Dan had, that we would target that into pre-procurement of the equipment. And they felt that that was probably a little bit more provable. So they're, one of the things that we did, we worked with the clerk, treasurer on putting together contact information for most of the most significant users of the wastewater system. And we've reached out to all of them, and now it's time we're gonna have to go back and go down the list and start calling them. What we're trying to get is a testimonial and you know, some dialogue with them about, you know, why having, you know, resilient and significant utilities available for growth is important to them. So there's a lot of good stories to tell that we already know about, you know, in Bremen, you know, continued growth by some of your most important companies. And so we're hoping that they participate. And what we're looking from them is a letter going back to EDA and for them to fill out a beneficiary form that's pretty simple. And so it's worthwhile. I mean, we're trying to wrangle in like $4 million from that. And that, according to what we heard from the project manager at EDA, that seems like a doable number for what we're asking for. So.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Brian? David? Yeah. Good, Bill? I just would like to personally thank all the department heads and the town employees for helping on the Latin Fest. Everything went smooth as I think it could have gone, and I got out there Monday. I was gonna go grab a ladder and go take down some stuff. The place was immaculate, so went well. So thank you for all your guys' work and help on that. So I have nothing further. Entertain a motion for
Make a
adjournment.
motion for adjournment.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ready?
So you said it's just like-